Morning, everyone. So I've been going through the newly released Idaho 4 Brian Kohberger documents, and I want to break a couple of them down for you guys. So the first document right here is where Kaylee is described to have had a stalker. This is what several friends said that they remember Kaylee talking about. They could not remember specifics though. Remember, at the beginning of this investigation, there was a lot of talk about Kaylee having this stalker, and that stalker, being the one to target her. This is not true. So it actually turns out that in this unreleased document, Kaylee had mentioned this in the prior school year. So this was before Brian Kohberger even moved to Pullman, Washington. So this is no connection to the crimes. There was, however, a document where Kaylee felt like there was someone watching the house in the woods to some degree, because Murphy, her dog, would run to the woods. And normally when Murphy was called to come back to the house, he would, but he would stay in the woods for a little bit. And they believed that there was someone in the woods possibly petting Murphy, playing with Murphy, whatever the case may be. And this was much closer to the November 13th crimes. Now, for me, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, maybe the dog just wanted to play in the woods. Maybe there was an animal in there that caught its attention. I don't know. But there are people online who do believe that this was Brian Kohberger's way of trying to get Murphy to get used to him, to become familiar with him. So that way, when if Brian Kohberger ever chose to go into the home and unalive anyone in the home, he would have the dog's trust in an effort to maybe not get Murphy to bark if he entered the home. It's definitely possible, but I'm not 100% on board with that being Brian Kohberger and something that he did. We also know that Murphy did bark the night of the 1122 King Road unalivings, and I'm going to explain how we know that now based on the newly released documents detailing what Bethany Funke told authorities at the beginning of this investigation. The document reads, on November 13th, 2022, around 1:47, I interviewed Bethany Funke at the Moscow Police Department in regards to the death of 4 of her roommates. Bethany is a resident of 1122 King Road. She was home sleeping in her room located in the basement of the residence. Bethany has an iPhone 11 Pro cell phone with her passcode. So for all of you conspiracy theorists out there, Bethany was interviewed that same day. She handed law enforcement her phone, gave them her passcode, was very upfront, honest, and truthful with authorities from the very beginning. Bethany said that she went to a party around 8:30 with Ethan and Xana. They hung out in an apartment for a while together, and then they went up to the main part of the fraternity to hang out at the party. Maddie and Kaylee went to the corner club together, not sure when they left. Bethany did not see Ethan and Xana at the party and left to go to someone else's residence on Taylor Avenue. Bethany walked home at around 1-ish, and when she got back to 1122 King Road, someone and Dylan Mortensen were at the residence and they all watched a movie together. Maddie and Kaylee got to the house at around 1:45 or 2 o'clock. The person that was with Bethany and Dylan ended up leaving the house and Dylan went to bed. Bethany hung out with Maddie and Kaylee for a while in Kaylee's room. Bethany and Maddie took Murphy, Kaylee's dog, out to go to the bathroom, and between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, this is when that happened. Bethany did not stay outside for very long as it was cold. Maddie then went to bed and watched a TV show to help her sleep. At around 4 o'clock to 4:20, Bethany heard what she thought was a firework and saw a spark on the ground from under her door. Bethany then heard Murphy start barking. Dylan called Bethany and stated that she had seen someone in the house, and Bethany told her she should come down to her room and sleep with her. Dylan went to Bethany's room and went to bed. They woke up at around 11 o'clock in the morning and talked to other friends who ended up coming over to check on Ethan and Xana when they found them deceased. Bethany originally called 911 and stated her friend was passed out and would not wake up. Now, this is when Bethany mentions Kaylee telling her about a month prior that there was an unknown male standing above their house. She stated that Kaylee had told her that there was an unknown male up above their house to the south who was staring at her when she took Murphy out to go to the bathroom. But Bethany didn't know who it was, and she couldn't provide further details on that specific situation. Bethany was then asked about Murphy's routine. Bethany stated Kaylee would primarily take Murphy out, but Maddie would also help. Bethany stated they never just left the door open because he would run away, so they would have to use a leash when they took him out. Bethany stated Murphy would not bark that often and was very friendly. Bethany stated Murphy would primarily sleep in Kaylee's room, and if Kaylee was not home, he would be left in the room. Now, remember, at the beginning of this case, there was so much misinformation being spread about the dog and how the unaliver must have known the dog. The dog must have been comfortable with the unaliver because they took the dog and put the dog in a separate room away from the victims. No, that's not the case. It seems like Murphy was in Kaylee's room empty or not, often. And the dog was probably put in there by the girls after they brought the dog out to use the bathroom, because this was something that they did often, according to these documents. And then the rest of the document is just Bethany being questioned about people in their circle and stuff like that. It seems like Kaylee was talking to another guy and that she had stayed with him possibly more than once, but he had never stayed at 1122 King Road. Bethany then retells 2 incidents where Kaylee had mentioned weird things had happened, one of which was a guy following her around a Winco. He had followed her around the store, watched her check out, and then followed her to her vehicle. The guy was African American and in his late 20s. And then the second weird instance was when Kaylee told everyone she saw a male watching her when she had taken Murphy out back to use the bathroom. She then discusses that broken door to the house. Bethany and her roommates had found the door open once on November 4th around 10:57 in the morning, and they entered the house and grabbed golf clubs out of the west first floor bedroom. Bethany and the other roommates walked around the house with the golf clubs to check the house. Wind was blowing and the screws on the hinges were loose, and Xana's dad tried to fix it when they left that weekend. Now, as far as the night of the unalivings, Bethany said that Dylan had said that she had seen someone dressed in all black upstairs. Now, Bethany said that she didn't really know what to say to Dylan. They were both scaredy cats, basically, so she just told Dylan to come downstairs. They thought that there was going to be a prank pulled on them by members of Ethan's fraternity. She also thought that maybe Dylan was just imagining things because she was drinking. She said that that night, after getting into her bed, she did think that she heard Murphy bark, and she also heard what she believed was the beer pong table being moved, and that cups were being moved as well on the table. This just further goes to show that these girls did not know the severity of what was going on. I mean, who would? Bethany did say that it was normal for the roommates to not answer if she was trying to reach out to them late at night, so she ended up going to bed. The next morning, like we heard in her victim impact statement, she woke up and she ended up calling her dad because she had a toothache. Bethany ended up falling back to sleep, and then Dylan ultimately started getting scared once the other roommates were not responding, so she called others over, and that's when we know everything went down. Now, Bethany did say that she's never seen Xana on the floor like that morning, but she did get told prior that Xana had a history of just passing out on the floor when she was drinking too much. And that is all that we have for those couple of documents. I'm still continuing to go through these, so make sure to follow. We will continue to break everything down. Hopefully this creates a little bit more of an understanding as to what went down so that people understand Dylan and Bethany's sides a little bit more.